What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to the All Around. I'm your gracious host, Dr. Anthony. Please tune in on Mondays at 6 p.m. for your entertainment purposes. We will hit current topics, old topics, and everything else in between. Be there or be square. Deuces, my loves. Hi, what's up? What's up? What's up? I am your gracious host, Dr. Anthony, and we have a very special show for you. We're going to dedicate this show to the life and legacy of the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and we're going to discuss his triumph, his plight, and everything else in between. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and bring out my producer, the wonderful Mark Lee.
How are you doing? Hope everything is wonderful. As you can tell, today, to honor Dr. King, we took the day off, so I'm not actually.
I can barely hear you, Mark. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, I said, as you can tell, we're not at the Cultural Arts Center where I'm usually at and everything on Monday because we decided to take the day off to honor Dr. King. And I know that some of my coworkers were doing things of service and all along those lines. And I actually took the chance to actually honor Dr. King on some previous podcasts and all along those lines, but definitely his legacy deserves to be honored. And unfortunately, his legacy fell on the day of the 47th president's inauguration as well. But definitely a lot of people were even pointing out the contrast. As a matter of fact, I had an interview that I had seen earlier today where Bernice King was talking about that legacy, and I think she was talking to an Australian media outlet and all along those lines.
Yeah, people that are in my circle and in the 92%, we definitely did not participate in anything that was remotely, related to that man and things like everything was centered around Dr. King and making sure that we did things, like you said, of service to pay homage and, just take some time back to think about what's going to happen in these, next 4 years, the tumultuous times that we're in and things like that. But primarily just, honoring Dr. King and his legacy and things. And one of the things that I will bring to the forefront is his "I Have a Dream" speech. He gave that speech in 1963 on the in front of the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. What you saying? Yeah.
Yeah, in front of the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. That was one of his most iconic speeches. And I just want to talk about an excerpt from the speech. He says, "I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths self-evident that all men are created equal." But on a day like today, it just, makes me be in a sense of remiss when we're celebrating Dr. King and we got a tyrant that is in the office of the highest office of the land, in the presidency. So I honestly, I think this happened purposely in terms of it being Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday today and his inauguration, because I don't think that he's going to have the presidency that he thinks he's going to have. I think that there's going to a lot of pushback when it comes to certain things, and certain things is not going to fly with people. So the people have already started giving pushback, but with that they had a people's march on the 18th.
Mm-hmm.
And my thing is, why the hell didn't you march your asses into the polls and go vote like we told y'all to?
Yeah.
But y'all wanted to play Russian roulette. We explained everything to you. I'm talking about Black people, especially because I can only speak from my perspective, that we told y'all what was going to happen. We told you what the outcome was going to be, but y'all took it upon yourselves to vote against the grain and side with white supremacists and the Ku Klux Klan and things like that. So now all of those people who were saying don't support Kamala, don't support President Biden, you were calling up on those very people that you said don't support to do something so that your asses wouldn't get deported. So now, I mean, y'all FAF y'all just fucked around and found out that it's about to go down. And he's already stated that to use executive orders to, put things into play in terms of, like birthright citizenship and things like that. And see, Mark, what really pisses me off is, Dr. King was the forefront of the civil rights movement.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these people who have entered the United States do not understand that without the Black plight, without Black fight, that there would be no them. They don't understand that we're fighting the same enemy. They don't understand that without us being voiceful, getting beat down, our ancestors, our grandfathers, great-grandfathers, great-great-grandfathers, and grandmothers and things like that, going into those places, that they would not have the rights and the liberties that they have today. And they don't understand that. But yet they come over here and say that they don't want to associate themselves with, Blacks. They don't want to assimilate with the Black culture and things. But it's the Black culture that is the reason why you're able to do what you're able to do. It's the reason why you have a voice. It's the reason why you're able to walk and march the streets to say, this is inhumane, or this is not where, we need to be, and we need to look at something different. And they don't understand that. They don't get that, because I've been on social media for a long time. I not only, give out commentary on social media, but I also watch social media. And I know that times when people want to get their numbers up there, who are the first people that they attack, Mark?
Yeah, they attack the African American community, and they also try to copy us quite a bit as well. That's
not just the African American community. They specifically target Black women.
Yeah,
because they already know. Yeah, because they already know that Black women are a hot topic, and that we are the least respected people on the planet. So they target us, and they come after us, try to get their platform pushed and to try to get their voices heard. Even with the white women in the South, who did they target? Black women. Oh, Black women said that they're going to beat us up. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. Let me tell you something, little white people, especially little white women. If we really wanted to beat you up, we would have done it a long time ago. Okay? We would have thrown hands a long time ago. You're the least of our worries. You're the least of our concern. But it's so funny, Mark, how everyone always has something to say in regards to Black men and Black people, especially Black women. I don't know if you are familiar with Megan Thee Stallion and her new boyfriend and things like that or whatever. So, the ex-girlfriend is white, and so her friends quite naturally are white. And so they were on their little podcast, and what is his type? His type is not, his type was like you, basically saying that he only dated white women. First of all, this is a Black man. So he's going to, have some type of connection to the Black community, to sit there and say, what is his type, and his type is only one kind. He doesn't have a one kind. He has all kinds. He has what he likes, and apparently Megan is what he likes at the moment, and things like that or whatever. But again, they are out there attacking Black women, and basically mispronouncing her name, talking about she can't pronounce her name. But that's something that they do purposely to dehumanize us and things like that or whatever. Notice the campaign trail, Trump never pronounced Kamala's name properly. He always said Kamala. And that to me was the ultimate disrespect. So when they mispronounce my name, guess what? Dr. Anthony doesn't respond. If you mispronounce my first name, I don't respond. But again, like I said, Dr. King gave one of the most iconic speeches in front of the Lincoln Memorial, which is on the opposite side of National Mall. Most of y'all who are.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, just really quickly.
It was on one side. The Lincoln Memorial was on one side. It was on the opposite side. Yes.
I was just going to say, one of the things that took place last week, even before the inauguration and Dr. King's holiday, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. I thought she handled it quite well. I've got a great deal of respect for her and everything, but apparently, the Democratic representative, Jasmine Crockett, took to X because there was a House committee member that basically asked her whether she wanted to take it to the streets and everything. So I'm going I don't know that that particular House member would hang that long with Jasmine Crockett in a street fight and everything. So she was asking her whether she wanted to take it outside, I believe is the actual comment and everything along those lines. But that usually means taking it to the streets and taking it as a fisticuff efforts and everything. So I'm thinking Representative Nancy Mace wouldn't last that long with Jasmine Crockett. And like I said, I've got a great deal of respect for Crockett because apparently they became entangled in a heated debate as lawmakers passed legislation to ban biological men from participating in women's sports. But what is your thoughts on this notion that
as it should be? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you identify with, it's what you are. Your DNA, regardless of if you have a sex change or whatever, your DNA cannot be altered. It cannot be changed. You are biologically a male, regardless if you identify as female, you identify as trans male, trans girl, trans whatever. You are still a male at the end of the day. And I just believe that that law is like accurate or whatever, because at the end of the day, there's no possible way female can compete, and barely compete with the man when it comes to, like anything. They're stronger, they're tougher, and things like that. I understand that, that was this push at one point when they were saying, women should be able to do what men do. Women and anatomically it's virtually impossible. But, as far as Nancy Mace is concerned, Nancy Mace is a transgender. So Nancy Mace is a man. So he already know that, taking it outside, he would have a slight advantage over Jasmine Crockett. Nancy Mace, when you get outside, Jasmine Crockett got cousins, aunties, uncles, and everybody else that's willing to come and, step for her. So, because what people fail to realize, Mark, is, in the Black community, when, we play the dozens, because they don't know what the dozens are. Right. When we talk about your mom, your grandmama, your grandpappy, your daddy, your granddaddy, all of those things, we come for the whole family. And when you say you want to take it there, guess what? We're going to bring us to get there with you. So guess what? Nancy Mace, Race, or whatever the hell your name is, although you said that you want to take it outside, she won't be alone, because we will be right there to pick up the pieces and things like that or whatever. So, we can handle this as, adults, because, the thing was, she called her child. She didn't call her child. She used it in a sentence, child, not like child with the D at the end, but child, like in, as I'm speaking, child, please, that's not a concern. But right. Quite naturally, she took it the wrong way. And whatever she is, he, she, it, whatever, him, Miss Ma'am, sir, whatever. And talking about, I'm not a child. I've broken more glass ceilings and this, and other. Nobody called you a child. She said child in terms of, jargon, different types of language, and things like that or whatever. So she took it the wrong way, or whatever he is or whatever, took it the wrong way, talking about we can take it outside. Because when you tell us we can take it outside, that's fighting words for us. You know what I'm saying? So if we take it outside, we take it outside, you're not gonna get a chance to turn around, because we're gonna start throwing them hands the second that you step yourself outside, and we're gonna do what we have to do. But he was trying to take it there because he knows that he is biologically a man, and that she is biologically a woman. They call us cis women, so they can do.
Apparently, Jasmine did something that is dropping some child collection merch inspired by that face off. So a Crockett clapback, a street art style image of Crockett with the phrase "child, please," or a dictionary style definition of child. She put that out there. Looks like it was about 2 days ago, so maybe on Saturday. So maybe some people will be out there buying some of this Crockett merchandise and everything that is actually a play on what was going on in that particular space and everything along those lines. Because, like I said, she's a young congresswoman and is definitely involved in law and a number of other things, because it looks like she was born in 1981. So that means that she's in her early 40s and all along those lines. Yeah, I think her birthday is March 29th. So this year she'll turn 44 and everything like that. So she's definitely not afraid to mince words and everything like that. And she's definitely done some great work. And apparently she's very fiery and focused. And I don't think that she'll be backing down and everything, because right now she was originally a St. Louis native, but she's representing her Dallas congressional district where she lives at, and all along those lines. Hey, the other thing that came in. Yep. Definitely, she got to be focused. Got to be trying to let folks know what's going
Hmm.
on. Apparently, she had at one time had a career in the medicine, but decided not to go in that particular direction and everything. And apparently, she got a lot of cheers during an event presenting a check for $2.5 million last year to the Martin Luther King Jr. Community Center that was going on in Dallas. So, speaking of
Hmm.
MLK, she gave a lot of she helped raise a bunch of money to the center that is named in his honor in Dallas and all along those lines. So a lot of people are saying that she's a rising star because she won't take any from any shit from folks and everything along those lines. So that is a good thing. We need more politicians like that and everything like that. One of the things that I saw in one of King's speeches is that people forget that he was very much in the notion that we were heading toward what it seems like we're already in, even worse at everything, which is a serious class divide. Because he talked about, in one of his speeches about the poor people and not just within our own community, but he did say that it was real deep within our community, but he also had sympathy for the Appalachian poor and some of the poor from some of the Latin American countries and everything like that. And I know Reverend Barber is talking about a poor people's march. And of course, they're getting ready to start the Moral Monday protests. They might have already started them and everything. But what is your take on this notion that we've got to do something about this serious class divide? Even here on the network, Pod TV, we got a lot of people that basically been like, the rich are going to stay rich, the rich are going to continue to get richer, and the poor people and the middle class that are now part of the poor people, or somewhat part of the poor people, just going to have to get over themselves if they don't have that kind of resources. Because we are already this inauguration, apparently all the technical the people that are running these
Right.
social media sites were there at the inauguration, whether it was Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg or the guy from one of the open AIs or a number of other folks like that. So what's your take on this class divide, Dr. Anthony?
So the thing about it is, Mark, there's gonna always be a class divide and things like that or whatever. And to technically they are right. The rich people are going to get richer because of the simple fact. Look how the people voted. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Had an opportunity to vote for someone who was going to give you $50,000 towards a business, give you $25,000 to go towards your first home purchase, but you chose, him lying to y'all about getting cheaper eggs and cheaper gas and things like that or whatever, because what people fail to realize is, regardless of how poor white people are, they're always going to vote against their own best interest. Because guess what? They think that they're better than, the richest black person.
Yeah.
So with that mindset and that belief, that's how Trump was able to get into office, a rural population of, like poor people and things like that or whatever, because they think that they're better than black people. And so regardless of, the policies hurting them, they think, oh, because it's hurting black people, that, that's the next best thing. But what they fail to realize is black people know how to make blood from a term. We know how to turn 50 cent, make a dollar out of 50 cent or whatever. You know what I'm saying? We know how to survive. But they have this notion that are than us, and that's what they play on, is that more racist type belief. Because if you look at it, the people who are in rural areas are typically more racist than people who are integrated and who are immersed in the cities and things like that or whatever, because they're around more people of color, they're around more diversity and things like that or whatever. So by the way that the trajectory is going, by looking at they voted, we are going to be in for a worse fate. But what they better realize is they are going to get the brunt end of everything. So it's just going to be real interesting to see, because they're already talking about the inflation is about to come. So I'm waiting for the markets to crash and things like that or whatever. And I'm waiting for inflation to hit, and where people can't afford basic necessities, because they're already complaining that they can't afford it now. So when inflation really hits, when he really doing the ignorant stuff that he says that he's going to do, I really want to just see how they're going to react. Because my thing is, we tried to warn y'all, but y'all didn't want to listen. Y'all chose white supremacy over a sensible plan with the left and things like that or whatever. So my thing is, it is what it is. So now y'all done fucked around, found out, and so now y'all have to live with it for the rest of the 4 years and things like that or whatever. So oh well. And that's just my take on it. Oh well, because like I tell people all the time, I'm in a different tax bracket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense and everything. One of the other
The
things that
stuff
they've been
that
talking.
they're going to go through, I'm not going to experience that. Huh?
That's true. That's it. That makes a lot of sense. You're in a different tax bracket because of the different things that you've done, and all along those lines and everything. One of the other things that people have been talking about, they were glad that, and I kind of alluded to it at the last show that we did, but now we've got one winner, and who knows, maybe later on this evening he will win the championship and everything like that. But apparently he's been kind of shunning that notion of being that representative and everything, because Marcus Freeman could possibly win a national title later on this evening and everything, because he's of African American and South Korean descent, and apparently he spoke about representation and being an example following the Sugar Bowl win and ahead of the Orange Bowl. So he said, "You're very grateful. It's a reminder that you're representation for many others and many of our players that look the same way I do. Your color shouldn't matter. The evidence of your work should." Ahead of the Orange Bowl, Freeman touched on the potential to make history and also spoke on helping others that will follow. "I want to be a representation, but that's not enough. If you want to truly help some people, then you got to be one to make decisions and actions that truly help people." At the media day for the national title game, he spoke more of the history he stands to make. "I am so grateful to help represent a lot of guys, especially our players and coaches that look like me, but I'm going to make sure the attention is turned on the team, because I'm not in this position without the team or without the other coaches getting the job done." So it looks like he could poetically make history on Martin Luther King Jr. Day and everything like that. And he did have a quote about Dr. King. He said, "What Dr. King has done for our country has been tremendous, and to do it in 38 years, that's just the impact that man made in 38 years. It's just humbling to even think about, because he was 38 at the time that he died and everything along those lines." So that's what he was referring to by that 38 and everything along those lines. But what's your notion of this coach that, because I watched after the game and he did kind of like this quote, he's being a little bit more forthright, but in the ones immediately after the semifinal games, he was kind of walking back to some degree this conversation of his pioneering nature.
His words mean nothing to me. Married to a white woman, so they mean nothing to me. You know what I'm saying? You didn't even have the decency to marry one of your own. So, regardless of what you're saying or whatever, you still supporting that white supremacy mindset and, things like that or whatever. Because they want to be black until it's actually time to be black. So his words mean nothing to me. They're hollow words spoken on hollow grounds.
Well, I didn't know he was married to a white woman. I know there are a number of folks that are out there that have chosen to marry white women for whatever reasons and everything along those lines, but I did not know that he was one of those folks that had done that. I do know that, like Tiger Woods, he is of
we're referencing the same person or whatever. I think we are. Yeah.
The coach of Notre Dame.
He is definitely married to a white woman with about six children by her.
Wow. And then quite
so anyway, as I was saying, yeah. His words are hollow to me. He has no credibility in my book, as far as I'm concerned, because my thing is you want to talk about the plight and you want to talk about your struggle, yet and still marry a black woman. You took your resources and your money outside of the black community and basically giving it back to the white community. So yeah. Next topic.
No, one of the other topics is apparently, because this was in Forbes magazine, they were highlighting Fern Strode. She's a visionary founder and CEO of Black Vines, and this is a platform that goes beyond wine. It's about fostering community, celebrating culture, and championing diversity in the wine industry. So through Black Vines, she's rewriting the narrative and pushing inclusion and representation to the forefront and creating meaningful opportunities for Black winemakers and wine enthusiasts. I know that I've got a friend of mine here in this area, in Raleigh, that's a part of that wine industry as well. And then I've got another friend that I think lives in one of the towns, rural towns, Holly Springs here, that's part of the wine industry, and he helps Shoe Crazy and everything. So what's your notion on this? Because apparently she had this Stroud woman, a decade-long career in IT software development, including an internship with NASA, but she has skillfully blended her analytical expertise with her creative vision to build something extraordinary. And in 2020, she left her tech career to fully focus on growing Stroud Management Enterprises and Black Vines. She says, "I want to create a space where Black stories aren't just heard, they're celebrated. My job is to be the spotlight. My job is to build the stage." And apparently this is a stage that definitely radiates the conversation about there being some opportunities for wine in our community and everything like that. So I don't know if you're a wine drinker or not, but apparently this lady is big into wine, and she's created this company that is letting folks know about the nature of wine and that it is something that we can do, because the full title is Black Vines, A Toast to Black Wineries and Diverse Art Festivals and Events. So they're celebrating the wine industry from a Black lens.
Well, the thing about it is, Mark, I'm glad she is stepping out there, but there are also other, Black-owned wineries and things like that or whatever. So I'm glad she's, throwing her hat into the arena, because it's like, we are still creating tables in different spaces where, we're not necessarily welcome at. During the wine train, the Black women who were doing the San Francisco wine train tour and things like that or whatever, they were, racially profiled and, things like that. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they won like millions of dollars or whatever. So, we are still at a time where we still have to create spaces for our own selves and, build our own tables and bring our own chairs to our own tables. So, big ups to her. And yes, I am into wine. I'm more like a sweet red, and I like Riesling. And my go-to every day is Botanera, which is a Moscato and whatever. But yes, I support, all Black-owned businesses and things like that, because we need to have our footprint out there, and we need to make our mark in the world, because quite naturally it's not being given to us, because, this primary election has basically put us back 50 plus years. In terms of, mindset and, things like that or whatever. And, the progression that we have made, even with the DE, equity and inclusion, they're looking at people who have those positions or whatever as, people are not worthy. Just because a person has a DEI position does not mean that they're not worthy. We still have to be the creme de la creme. We still have to go out and work 100% times better than the average white person who can be mediocre at best. Look at Taylor Swift, for example. Beyonce has to work, 200 times harder than she does, and she can just get around with, her mayonnaise dancing self, and she's just accepted with, the bare minimum or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So we're still in a place where we have to create our own. We have to, make sure that we're doing things for us, because quite naturally, these white folks are not happy, and they're not pleased that Black people are not, one, cleaning their homes and doing things that, the laborious jobs that, Black people used to do, maids and, things like that or whatever. So, they're not happy, because the biggest lie that they is Black people are lazy. When they started Black people are lazy? When they lost free labor. You know what I'm saying? And then that's when they started, saying that Black people are lazy and Black people don't want to work. And even too, with Black women being housewives, Black women are, lazy and things like that or whatever. Not saying that, the man is taking care of the woman and things, and she's taking care of the home, because she would not work for the white woman. So we were termed lazy. We were termed, a baby mama. We were termed, all these things.
Yep.
Because that's the way that they wanted to term us when we stopped giving free labor and things like that. So yes, when I see us making strides and doing what we need to do, definitely.
No, you mentioned that and everything. And like I said, my friend that I referenced, she actually brought that up in a conversation that we were having yesterday, where it is difficult and there's a lot of roadblocks that are thrown out there for Black women in the wine industry, because it is still very much of a lily white industry. So she's even run into that a couple of times in the company that she's worked with, and all along those lines, where people think that she is a server, even though I want to say she's one of the managers, and all along those lines, but people are making assumptions based on the fact that she is a sister that is doing this work. Biden did something that maybe might shock folks, and I'd love to hear your thoughts around this. It was one of his last pardons and everything along those lines, and I know a number of people are fans of this gentleman that I'm getting to mention, that is a historical figure, and a lot of folks felt that he was convicted because of political motivations in an effort to silence the increasingly popular leader who spoke of racial pride. And yes, I'm talking about Marcus Garvey. So he was posthumously pardoned by Biden as one of his last efforts, and all along those lines. And I know he had the Black Star Line that was trying to get people to go back to Africa and everything. And he influenced Malcolm X and other civil rights leaders and was convicted of mail fraud in the 1920s. So also received, and there are other ones, including some of the immigration rights and other things. But congressional leaders have been pushing for Biden to pardon Garvey, with supporters arguing that Garvey's conviction was politically motivated in an effort to silence the increasingly popular leader who spoke of racial pride and everything. And we know that that's been going on for years. And after he was convicted, he was deported to Jamaica, where he was born, and he died in 1940. And even the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. said of Garvey, he was the first man on a mass scale and level to give millions of Black people a sense of dignity and decency. So definitely it's just interesting that he decided to do that in addition to some of his other pardons as well. So your thoughts on this? It seems to me that it was long overdue and it should have been done ages ago and all along those lines. So I'm glad that he took this.
Well, it should have been done a long time ago. Actually, he shouldn't have been arrested, but we already know that, Black people get arrested over some of the, simplest things, some of the most minor things and things like that or whatever. I mean, even with, Black Lives Matter, we can bring that into the forefront and things like that or whatever. We're termed militant and things like that, but yet and still, they did not break up the Ku Klux Klan, who has been in action since before I was born, before you were born, and they are still in action. So, it just goes to show that, they can do whatever they want to allow. Trump has 35 felonies or whatever, so he's still, elected president. So, nothing surprises me about, any of these white folks in this country and things like that. Will I ever leave it? No, this is my home country. My ancestors built this country. So I'm not going nowhere. You just gonna have to deal with it, But, he should have been long. The pardon is long overdue. And big ups to, Biden and things like that. And Biden had one of the most successful presidencies ever. And, they can say whatever the hell they want. Mental decline. Biden is an elderly person. Elderly people move slower. You know what I'm saying? They do things slower. Not saying that he was not, astute with his thinking and things like that, because he can handle his own, but, people want fast. These millennials want fast, instead of taking the slow road and, getting there or whatever. But, fast is what got them to Trump, is what led them into the Trump presidency. And fast is going to be what is going to, determine how their future based off of these next 4 years, because they've already, upped the Social Security age from 65 to 67 and things like that or whatever. So, these young people, they just, it just baffles me, Mark, because they really just don't understand, why we were pushing for certain people to be in office and things like that. We can run it back, and we can take it all the way back to Hillary, when Hillary was running, when we tried to get them to vote for her. We told them as much things at play that y'all need to be aware of. When we had the opportunity to put 3 people on the Supreme Court, guess what they did? They bullshitted that election and they allowed Trump to get in. Now we have a conservative Supreme Court, and they don't understand that these are lifetime appointments. You know what I'm saying? These people die out of these positions. They're not going anywhere. This is the law of the land. These are the judges of the land. So, not only with that being said, we lost the Supreme Court even in this election.
Yeah, we definitely lost
the House and we lost the Senate. But y'all think, because y'all running around here talking about, oh, I'm a Trump supporter this, I'm a Trump supporter that. Why are you a Trump supporter? You can't even answer your own damn question as to why you support this man. Y'all talking about, the presidency was not good under Biden and things like that. The tax reform and the tax things that we have been living under for the past 4 years were from Trump's presidency. They didn't expire until January 2025, which is right now. So now he's about to implement more tax, Chris, for the billionaires and things like that, and infringe upon, the poor people. But that's what they, Mark, that's what they don't understand. And so, it's, that's why I say it's really funny. It's going to be really funny to sit back and see how all of this is going to play out when these people realize that they are seriously fucked and things like that or whatever, and that they really have lost. And for the next 4 years, we're going to be prisoners. We're going to be POWs, so to speak, prisoners of war, although we're not in a war, but we technically are in a war because we're in a war domestically, you know what I'm saying, amongst ourselves. and things like that or whatever. So it's going to be really interesting to see how all of this pan out and how all these people who thought Trump was going to do something for them, but we already knew that was a cover and that was
No,
a
that
lie.
was
They just didn't want to vote for
that was a
Barack
total
Obama.
cover and everything
Yeah.
along those lines. But there was a person that at one time was putting himself as a liberal, but now he's part of the Trump camp and everything. And I definitely would love to hear Yoko around this because, as you mentioned, DEI is under attack at a number of agencies. So the lovely folks over at Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of that particular organization, has said that feminine energy in corporate world has gone too far as Meta eliminates DEI. So I guess he's feeling that there are too many women that are in control in the tech world, and he wants it to be a male-dominated industry or something like that, because he's saying that feminine energy in the corporate world has gone too far, which implies to me that he's saying that too many of you ladies are in charge of business. I always thought you wanted somebody that was a good person that would be good at the job, whether they were a man or a woman.
Eliminated DEI, you have to look at it from that standpoint. He's just saying black women, basically. It's too many black women. You know what I'm saying? So, you're not slick with your little, wordplay and, things like that or whatever. So we already know that he was behind the push to get TikTok banned and, all of that. But, people are still not coming back to Facebook and Instagram. The young people are jumping ship and going to, different Chinese apps. They're going to Fanbase, which I'm on Fanbase. I'm not going to Reddit because I don't agree with, communist China. So I'm not putting my information over there or whatever. So, that's just what it's all about. But people talk about me all the time, Mark, when I say, all these white folks running around here are racist. Now they're seeing their racist behavior, come to the forefront. It's not saying that, racist people can't be nice, because racist people are nice to the people that they tolerate. You know what I'm saying? So you have to understand when you're being tolerated and when you're being accepted. And, right now we're tolerated and we're no longer being accepted. That's why they got rid of diversity, equity, inclusion, talking about, you should get hired on your merit, not on the color of your skin. Well, if that was the case, we would be hired. We would be in the positions. We would be leading because we have the merit. But, when we don't have protections in place, such as DEI, we're told that we're overqualified. We can't do this. We can't do that because we have too much education. We have this. I remember, let's take your president, for example, because he ain't mine. When he was on The Apprentice and this young black man who he graduated from the business school of Harvard and things like that or whatever. He did not select that man from the business school of Harvard, but he selected a white man who had no degree, barely experience and things like that. So you can't sit here and tell me that you're going to hire based off of a person's merit and things like that and not the color of their skin, because we've seen this play out. We've seen it play out. We've seen this playbook before, and that's what we try to get people to understand. But quite naturally, they sided with the white folks and sided with them, thinking that their closeness and their proximity to whiteness is going to purport them to newfound heights and things like that. For prime example, the Asians, when they were trying to get a grant that was meant for black women, they had the Georgia Supreme Court disband that organization that was helping black women start businesses and things like that. Affirmative action. Asians, they let the white folks boost their heads up, talking about black people are the scores, well, not really their scores, but their position at Harvard, Yale, and Princeton and things like that are going down. Black people has remained steady. Our scores has remained steady in terms of data and getting accepted into these prestigious institutions. But y'all have been on the decline. So how's it working out for you, Asian people? Y'all let them white folks get y'all up in arms to get rid of affirmative action, and you're still not being purported to where you want to be purported.
Yeah,
it's things that like that we're battling on a continuum. We're not only battling the white people, but we're battling every other race, and we're also battling black people. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we can never win. We can never come out on top. We can never be, who we're destined to be, because we're always consistently fighting. No matter what turn, no matter how far we go, no matter how far we get there, we're consistently fighting. And it has never stopped.
There was a very popular show that was possibly going to be targeted as a kid seller, and I know that you work in the education space and everything like that. But there's some people that are speculating whether in 2025, because of the new president and the way he wants to attack certain media and everything, whether Sesame Street will be around. And Sesame Street, whether it was LeVar Burton or whether it was a number of other stars, had a rich history of hiring a lot of African American actors, including Michael B. Jordan and a number of others. So it definitely had a rich history of being a diverse show. They even dealt with race relations on some of their episodes and everything like that. So I'm just wondering, is this something that you're worried about? Because they did have a long 50-year run, but I do know that some people are concerned that PBS is definitely being targeted, including some of their more popular shows and everything like that. So definitely I was wondering your thoughts on the possibility of there not being a Sesame Street for the young people the way it was there for myself and others that were young at one point, even though we're now in our 60s and everything. But I just wanted your take on this possibility of Sesame Street being gone because people are thinking that it went too far politically.
No, I'm just saying I really don't care, because you had an opportunity to make a change, and you had an opportunity to march yourself and stroll to the polls and with your vote make a positive change, and you chose not to. So don't come on the back end of it talking about, are we going to have this and are we going to have that, and things like that. You should have thought about that when your ass was in them polls, in them voting booths at the polls, when you was voting for Trump, pulling that lever down, voting for Trump, or when you were.
Yeah. Well, speaking of things that are hard,
you should have done that then. So whatever your child go through is whatever your child go through at this point. Because like I said, I'm not fighting.
I said, speaking of that, and we can get off Trump just for a minute, there is a popular, and he actually played here in my neck of the woods for everything, and now he's saying that it's difficult. So Cam Newton got candid about caring for the 8 children that he fathered and everything with his post-NFL finances. So Cam Newton was one of the most popular and exciting players in the NFL. His exploits on the field were so incredible that many nicknamed him Superman. But now that he's out of the league, he feels like he can't be called that anymore. During a recent episode of Special Forces, World's Toughest Test, a reality show on Fox, Newton opened up about the struggles of being a father of 8 kids, saying, I'm going into a different phase of my life that's going to require a different form of myself. Being in the NFL, everyone knows there's a large sum of money that comes to you in a short span of time, and being away from the game for 3 years, those checks don't come in the same. Like, I got 8 kids. Newton said it hurts him knowing that he cannot provide for his family the way he used to provide to them. It hurts thinking that I'm Superman, but in reality, I'm just a man. There's a famous quote that says, in order to get something that you've never had, you've got to do something you've never done. At 35, I can literally say, okay, now I'm getting prepared for this next chapter of my life. So I'm trying to figure out what he did with that money that he made, because he was making a pretty decent check, but he's saying that he's now can't handle the 8 kids and everything like that. And in October, he admitted to cheating on his current girlfriend, Jasmine Brown, whom he shares a daughter with. So on an episode of his Funk Friday podcast, he said, as long as I've been with Jazz has not been the only person I've had sex with, and all along those lines. But I just wanted your notion of these people that are rich stars, be they white or black, are after they lose that check, whatever that regular check was, it is a significant check, then they start crying that they can't survive the way that they used to survive.
I mean, I have no sympathy for him. You made more money than I would probably make in my entire lifetime. You know what I'm saying? You should have planned better. You should have prepared, like they tell us. You know what I'm saying? You should have known what you were getting into when you should. They tell females, plan for your kids. And so that's all I can say to them is plan for your kids, plan for your future. You knew the consequences of, having unprotected sex, with all these different women and things like that or whatever. So now you got the kids. So now you have to take care of them. Now, am I sympathetic towards you? No, I'm not. You should have, had a financial advisor or someone who could talk to you about, managing your money so that you could do what you're supposed to do in terms of, being a father to your girl or whomever, however y'all got set up, you know what I mean? So you better step out there and do what you're supposed to do as a man. That's all I can tell you. Because, over here, the 92%, we handling our business. We working and we doing what we supposed to do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know, there was a popular group that was definitely in your era, but even though I was younger, but still it was an adult at the time that they came out because they were very popular in the 90s and everything. But they had a big hit called Jump, and they were produced by Jermaine Dupri. And of course, there was the friends Chris Mac Daddy Kelly and Chris Daddy Mac Smith. And wasn't long before they hit some hard times as well. So apparently, with that one hit wonder, or that maybe they had a couple of hits, but they dealt with drug addiction and everything like that. So I just wondering your thoughts on these folks that apparently get some success, because even in the root, they were talking about that and they were asking whether people had heard of Criss Cross. And I'm thinking that some of the young folks that are in their now 20s and maybe even some in the 30s had not heard of Criss Cross. I definitely knew who Criss Cross was, and I'm sure that you probably knew Criss Cross because a lot of people remember that
One
song.
of the young men passed away. He had cancer or something like that.
Yeah, I think he
One
did.
of the young men passed away because he had cancer or something like that or whatever. But my thing is, just because you get money don't mean that you have to go out there and start, snorting cocaine and, doing drugs and, things like that or whatever. So, I think those habits were there prior to, them becoming who they were and, things like that or whatever. Because if I win the lotto today, I'm not going to be out there, doing drugs and things. I'm going to live my normal life and
Yeah, that makes sense.
unless I'm in a state that requires me to, reveal who I am and things like that. And I would definitely have my attorney accept, the money in a trust for me, but I'm not going to go out there and start, doing things that I've never done before because that has never been me. And so a lot, like I said, with a lot of people, they get into these, roles and these positions and things like that and feel like they have to go along with the group.
Yeah. Hey,
Whatever you do is what you do. Behind
yeah,
closed doors, whatever. I'm not doing it. You know.
speaking of that and everything along those lines, and coming back to Trump and the Black Stars and everything, there was a lot of people that got upset because there were a number of stars that came out to perform for him. Of course, there was the legendary group Village People that at one point was mad at him for using that song YMCA, but I guess they performed. But there was also people, including some that have some respect in the community, even though some people are pissed at them because they gave like a lame excuse for the reasons that they were performing, and maybe some of them are about to be canceled. But Nelly was one of those, and I think that I've heard you say in the past that you might have been a fan of Nelly, and even Snoop Dogg, who is a well-known actor, and Soulja Boy and Rick Ross. These are folks that have performed and are, I guess, continue to perform, because I think the inauguration goes till tonight and everything in the Trump's inauguration event. So what is your take on these folks that are trying to do a number of things and I guess justify their performing at the inauguration? I think one of them, it might have been Nelly, said it was his patriotic duty to perform if he was asked, and all along those lines. So I just wanted your take on these folks that have.
Well, I'm just put it to you like this, Nelly. Keep that same energy, because remember when your sister was dying and she needed a kidney, and you went to those black colleges and things like that or whatever, looking for a kidney for your sister. Keep that same energy if something ever happens, because we not standing up for you. As far as Snoop Dogg is concerned, so you shucking and jiving now, Snoop. You know what I'm saying? And all the rest of them, y'all shucking and jiving. When y'all know this man don't like black people, when y'all know this man don't like black women, and y'all got his ass talking about you respect the office, but he don't respect you. You know what I'm saying? Because what did he tell the white folks? Oh, we're gonna do law and order. What the hell do you think law and order means? That they're gonna turn the police against your ass, your black ass. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is, at this point, whatever happens to them happens, because they have lost fans over here. Because I would no longer be listening to their music. I would no longer support anything, even if they're in films or whatever. I would no longer be doing any of that. And
So
I'm
no
not
more.
and I'm not the only one. You
So
know what I'm
no more
saying?
law, no more Law and Order for you, because I think that's the one that Snoop is in and everything. It's one of those cop shows that he is still a quote unquote star in. So I guess you're going to be no longer doing that and
I,
everything.
I mean, I watched the old Law and Order or whatever. I've never seen him in an episode of Law and Order and things like that or
And it
whatever.
might not
So
be Law and Order. It's one of those cop shows that he is active in. I can't remember it's Law and Order or
yeah,
one
I
of
mean,
those.
because I'm not really a TV watcher anyway. So that right there, it does not move me. But for you to have this video out there talking about who's gonna be stepping and fetching and shucking
Yeah.
that for the president. Which one of y'all niggas gonna do that? Now this was way back in 2017. So now in 2025, you have a whole new different approach. So you that nigga Snoop that's out there stepping and fetching and shucking and jiving and things like that. And for Nelly, you know, my thing is like for real, y'all use black people to get to where you are, then you want to switch over and jump ship. You know what I'm saying? So no, they can definitely cancel Christmas on that one because I am no longer a fan. I will not download any of their music, and if I do have it, it will be on delete.
Don't delete everything. Speaking of fans, we sometimes talk about.
I'm no longer a fan. I just cannot support no foolishness like that.
Speaking of foolishness and everything, there was an Alaska airline lady, a sister, and everything that claimed that she was wrongfully fired by Alaska Airlines, and it actually comes down to what you can and can't do when you're online. So an Alaska Airlines flight attendant said she was wrongfully fired after participating in a social media challenge and posting the video online, and now she started a GoFundMe. I believe that GoFundMe was started either earlier this month or last month, and it has social media and an uproar. So Nelly Diella uploaded the clip of her twerking to TikTok in an aircraft cabin last year with a caption describing herself as a ghetto, that B word that can also be associated with dogs and everything. In the video, she is donning an Alaska Airlines uniform while dancing to the song Ghetto by artist EKE, and said, "Don't let the uniform fool you." She also said in the post, which has since received thousands of likes, however, since her termination, she has launched a GoFundMe describing what led her to being let go. So apparently she did this video while at the airline and everything along those lines, and I guess folks are upset, and it was supposed to be and she said, one day during a layover, I posted a lighthearted video on my personal social media account. It was a harmless clip that was recorded at 6 a.m. while waiting 2 hours for Palace. I was also celebrating the end of probation and making it out of a hard upbringing in San Francisco, California. She said she was accused of violating Alaska Airlines social media policy and that she was terminated without warning, and that the GoFundMe will assist with bills until she can find another position elsewhere. So did she step over the line by doing social media on this airline if they had certain rules and everything? So what's your take on this flight attendant that apparently got?
I mean, it's no other way to say it. Yeah, if they have social media rules in place, that's just like my job. He has social media rules in place and things like that or whatever. So, if you cross those boundary lines, you're more than likely going to get fired. You know what I'm saying? So you should have read the fine print. That's all I can say.
Yeah, but apparently she's not doing that
whatever.
Well.
But and these young people don't understand. Like, you're still working for older people. Older people are not to the point where you are when it comes to like social media and things like that. They're not progressive in that era and things. So you have to know if your company has a social media clause. You need to know what your social media clause is, what you can and cannot do, and things like that. But it would be, and you were in your personal clothes. You were in a company outfit. You were getting ready to go to the job. You were on that airline. So I mean, you violated the rules and things like that or whatever. So I mean, it's really nothing. I mean, you really don't have no leg to stand on. And I wish you, the best of luck. And I hope you get another position and things like that. And I understand you're doing a social media challenge. Maybe you should have done a social media challenge in your hotel room or, before you got to the plane. Because a lot of people who are doing social media challenges, planes, they're not actually on the plane. And, doing those things, just like, my logo is in the background and you can see me moving around and things like that or whatever, but my logo is not moving. So, yeah, I mean, you just have to be wise, especially if you're not working for your damn self and you working for a corporate company. So, yeah, there are rules in place. And if you violate those rules, you will be terminated. Period.
Yeah, you're going to be terminated. Apparently, she was trying to raise a certain amount of money. I think it was in the $1,000 range and everything along those lines, but she did not quite make that. I think she had raised like maybe 2.7 and along those lines. But just in case people are wondering what we're talking about, this is a copy of the video that she was part of, and that is the young lady and all along those lines and everything like that. But they did say that she was trying to raise something in the neighborhood of I'm trying to get down to this bottom. She was hoping to raise $12,000, but as of January 17th, which was only 3 days ago, she had gotten around $2,200 and everything like that. So she's still falling falling short on that particular goal that she was looking for, and all along those lines. But yeah, like I said, she looked like an attractive young lady and everything. But yeah, you still need to know those rules before you get involved in everything along those lines. Because if you don't know the rules, you can get burned very quickly, and it looks like that's what happened to her. She got burned very quickly, not following the rules and not understanding what their rules were and how to make those rules work for you and not against you and everything like that. But you got to know those rules.
I mean, even young teachers or young whomever or whatever, even young PhDs that I mentor and work with and stuff like that or whatever, I tell them the very first thing that you do when you get hired in as a professional or whatever, you get that employee handbook. You know your contract, from the top to the bottom, from the inside out. I carry my contract in my bag every day. My trunk, wherever I go, my contract goes. So if something happens, I'm flipping through my contract to, if it's, within the confines of my contract and things like that. You need to know your contract, and you need to know, exactly what you're dealing with when you're on those jobs. So, you can protect your job and protect your livelihood, because a lot of these young people out there, they're just, doing X, Y, and Z, and they're not, getting no stability when it comes to the job. Oh, well, I'll just quit this job and go get another one. I'll just quit this job and go get another one. Well, I'll get this job and I'm just going to go straight to the top. It doesn't work like that. You still have a lot of people who are boomers.
Yeah.
Boomers in positions of power who are not on the same level as you are when it comes to your commitment and your loyalty to jobs and things, because these young folks within a span of 3 years, they may have had 5 to 6 different jobs. So they have to understand when they're doing whatever, it can come back to bite you in your butt, and it can harm you later on. Just like, who would have thought she, twerking on a plane? She never would have thought, the plane was going to lead to her demise and her downfall and her, being terminated. She didn't think that, so they don't think through what they're doing. Oh, this is the latest TikTok trend. Let me do the latest TikTok trend. Let me do this. Let me do that. So they have to, put that out there in the forefront. And like I said, learn your job. Learn what you can and cannot do. Get your policies, procedures, and your handbook. Get your contract. Know your contract. Because if you don't, you
on that contract and everything. I know we're going to wrap up.
You're just out there.
Yeah. I know we're going to wrap up, but before we get ready to wrap up and everything, there were 2 powerful Black women, and I know you are a supporter of the sisters, as am I as well, but they decided that they would not want to play the game and everything, because actually one of the people put a picture of Michelle Obama on there. I think it was a white person on X and everything, said with a picture of Michelle, said, Michelle Obama, nah, I'm good, thanks, I'm not going, because she decided not to go to the inauguration and everything. And even one of the other traditions and everything, which is this notion of the outgoing vice president inviting the current vice president for a tour, and that's been apparently a norm. And definitely it looks like she, meaning Kamala Harris, declined of this notion of doing a tour with the Vances, but definitely looks like they were had enough, and they didn't feel like being part of the madness that went on earlier today. So but neither Michelle Obama or Kamala Harris decided to participate in this article that I'm reading, which is out of The Root, said that they are following the example of women like Rosa Parks, who, when asked to give up her seat on a Montgomery bus in 1955, said nah. And they're the tradition of the great Fannie Lou Hamer, who once devoutly said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Or Ruby Bridges, who at the tender age of 6 said, y'all gonna let me up in this here school. And that's kind of like what they imagine the person said and everything like that. But definitely they are not putting up with a lot of the nonsense, because the title of the article is something that you said several times in your own way and everything along those lines, Dr. Anthony. So the title of the article was something of the nation. Michelle and Obama and Kamala Harris proved that Black women aren't here for the shenanigans in 2025. Both women have made a clear statement without saying a word. So your take on that before we get ready to get on out of here, and you tell people about the numbers and all along those lines.
Well, the thing about it is the 92% has spoken, and we have been speaking since, the election was, cast, and the winner, things like that or whatever. So we had already said that we were not participating in a lot of things. And so I don't understand why the white folks are up in arms because Michelle Obama decided that she was not going to participate in his inauguration. Well, did he participate in Biden's inauguration? Didn't he skip? Didn't he sit it out?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So why are you holding Michelle Obama to a different standard than you holding Trump? Why are you trying to hold Kamala to a different standard than, you're holding them? Didn't they talk about her? Didn't they call her all kind of dirty names and things like that? So why would they want to be engrossed in their company and things like that?
Yep. Makes sense to me.
And again, the 92% has spoken. And anytime, if you see me on social media and I say the 92%, know that that's the 92% of Black women that voted for Kamala Harris in the presidential election, that we are no longer fighting for anyone other than another Black woman. We're no longer marching for anyone other than another Black woman. We're no longer donating to anyone unless it's another Black woman. So y'all can call us bitter, y'all can call us mean, y'all can call us angry, y'all can call us a lot of things. But guess what? We are done. We are no longer supporting anybody. Yeah. So Michelle and Kamala, power to the people. Big ups. Y'all started it off in 2025, and we're gonna take it over and we're gonna finish, and we're chilling. And with that being said, Mark, clock on the wall says that's all.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know we're going to say that's all. I was going to just tell you I was watching because it's hosted by a NFL football player and everything, the New Hollywood Squares, and I was glad to see a number of Black stars that were on the New Hollywood Squares and everything, because I think I saw RuPaul, Tiffany Haddish, Tyra Banks, and Cheryl Underwood, and a number of other sisters and brothers that were on that show and everything. So it does look like they're going to have some representation of the brothers and sisters on that particular show, including it being hosted by Nate Burleson, who is a brother. So we'll see what goes on in that. But it was good to see some of these old stars in addition to some of the old stars from other societies as well.
Well, that's the thing. I'm going to have to check it out because, Mark, I told you I don't really watch TV. I don't have time. I'm always busy. I don't have time to watch TV like that.
Well, we'll have to get you to watch a couple of shows that can be interesting.
And I will let you know and things like that. But again, the clock on the wall says that's all. So we will catch you guys on next Monday. Deuces.
Deuces.
What's up? Welcome to the All Around. I'm your gracious host, Dr. Anthony. Please tune in on Mondays at 6 p.m. for your entertainment purposes. We will hit current topics, old topics, and everything else in between. Be there or be square. Deuces, my loves.